today I wanted to share Windows by Julia Denos, illustrated by E.B. Goodall. Now, I really have enjoyed this book. Have I actually read it? No. It actually doesn't have that many words, but the reason I think is so nice is because of the illustrations. Sometimes you get a book that it's not really because of the words, but because of illustrations. And I know that I've mentioned before how important it is to read to your kid, but this is a great example of how the illustrations themselves carry a conversation between you and your child versus the words. Recommend. Now, why did I choose Windows beside that? It's January, and here in Texas, it doesn't snow, it doesn't feel like winter, and if we look up books for January, a lot of the times it's about snow, about winter clothing, and related things, right? And it's just doesn't really match the reality of a lot of kiddos that live here in Texas, probably other kiddos that live in Arizona and California and Florida, these sunny states that, yeah, that's not gonna work. Now, of course, reading books that don't always reflect the reality of kids is very important. We want to expose them to new ideas, to new things that are out there, new concepts. That's something I've talked about. But when I want to make a thematic, so a theme-based activity, it's going to be very difficult to make it theme-based and relate it back to the kid if it's not actually happening, right? So if you do something about leaves during the fall, okay, that makes sense. But snowmans during January, it's going to be pretty difficult. Here in Texas, our snow days or ice days, really, tend to happen in February, and that's if they happen. So I was thinking, what is something that always happens in January? It doesn't matter what region of the country or the world you live in, but, well, of the world it does matter. I'll tell you why in a little bit, but it doesn't matter what region of the country you live in, because you, as an adult or as a child, anyone will experience when it starts getting a little dark, but it's not quite late out. Like when you look at the clock, it's not quite late, but it starts getting dark quickly. And that's something we're experiencing here in Texas because we haven't changed our time. And it gets dark pretty soon. Right now it's actually pretty late. It's about 9 p.m. here, but it gets dark by 6:30 right now. And I want to kind of harness that by having a book that talks about how it gets dark outside. You see all these windows light up, but it's not quite late enough where you can't walk your dog, right? So that's the first thing. Now, again, this is a book that I don't really care to read. Like, I've read through it a little bit, and not anything against the author, because the author definitely inspired the illustrator, but it's nothing that you can come up with on your own. If anything, I feel like coming up with your own things adds more language. So what I did for some of my kiddos, depending on their needs, I just focused on the cover. We're just getting inspired by the cover. So for those kiddos that needed to get some drilling in, because it is a drill, but I'm making it theme-based, I just went ahead, got black construction paper, folded the top. I didn't even cut the top, like the roof part. I just folded it, and I laminated it. And we created our own, well, I created the silhouette. And they were able to, and here, let me show you, add some lit up windows after every trial. And so we were kind of creating our own little homes, our own little window scenes. And so let's say they're working on the R word, then we would practice the R sound, then we would practice an R word. And after every attempt, they'll stick a little window. If they did a really good job, I might let them stick 2 windows. The thing is, they always get a window, right? It's not like, oh, you didn't do it correctly, you're not getting a window. We are rewarding the attempt. We're rewarding hard work. And so I just let them put a little window there. Now, another thing I did, which, by the way, I looked at this and I was like, Halloween spooky house. So you can probably do something related to that. Use the same laminated home and then just have a little different printed out like decorations for the haunted house. I actually went online and just looked up window shapes. And there was like a bunch of windows in like one image, and so I just printed that out and I colored it with yellow marker. So with the window theme, I also went ahead and just looked up windows online, and I printed out 2 copies for each of my windows because one is going to be the base and the other is puzzle pieces. So for my kiddos that need some movement, this was great because I left the masterpiece on one side of the room and the puzzle pieces on the opposite side of the room, and so they would have to run to get their pieces. This also helps them with spatial recognition or some cognitive work. Now, that's what I did for one kid. There was another kid that I feel needs to diversify how they ask for items. We all know the kids are, I want this, I want that. Like I mentioned in one of my videos, the more. Okay, stop. We want to teach them like different ways to ask for things. And what we were working on with one of my kiddos was, may I have a square piece? May I have just a piece? That's what we were working on. Now, am I a fan of may I? No, I don't like that phrase. I feel like that phrase is elitist. I don't know. I just don't like it. But I'm teaching it just to diversify her requests. Like, hey, you can ask like this, but you can also ask like this. And then I'm going to teach her how to ask a different way. So it's not because I want her to be proper, which some people like that, to be honest. Again, I think it's pretty elitist and I don't really like it. And I wouldn't really teach my kids to have to request like that. I would just teach them that that's one way to request. But that's just my opinion because I'm a little more free. And then I also have a circular window. At the same time, we are introducing shapes or reviewing shapes, right? We have the squares, we have the circle, we have this one. This one's a little tricky depending on the age because the bottom is a rectangle, but the top is a triangle. And the other ones weren't like that. The other ones, all the pieces were the same. So that one's kind of interesting. And so you see we're still with the window theme. Now, there are some pages in here that I want to show you guys. Specifically, the page that has a bunch of different windows with different scenes. Here, let's see if I can find it. Any minute now. Okay, there you go. So this page. Has different windows with different scenes. We have some people that are hugging, a man that's playing piano, a girl that's just looking out the window, a woman that's painting, and so on and so on. What I did with this scene is for one of my kiddos that has to elongate her sentences, I went ahead and covered the windows, most windows. Now there's a few windows that just have a fan or the curtains are closed. You can use those too, but I decided I don't really care about that. But there is an opportunity of language there, but I just didn't want to focus on it. And so yeah, I just covered it with little pieces of paper, and I actually had her help me cover the little scenes. Now, at the time, I didn't have sticky notes. The sticky notes would have looked cuter and have some pop of color, but this is what I had because I didn't have sticky notes in my backpack at the time. But anyways, I cover the scenes, and we take turns revealing different windows and seeing what's there. Now, you can do it where you practice the scene beforehand, whether a session before or earlier in that session, or maybe it's the first time that they're doing sentence building, first time that they're looking at the scene. But anyways, I went ahead, did that. We were taking turns revealing, and I do it first, of course. I'm like, ooh, he is playing piano. How many words is that? He is playing piano. Or actually, I have to go like this. He is playing piano. 4 words. And what's a great way to extend this activity and actually make it fun is I had some big Legos. And so I was like, okay, that was 4 words. And so I got 4 of the jumbo Legos and I connected them. And as we kept doing this activity, we were adding these jumbo Legos and creating a building. And sometimes when we were adding Legos, there was gaps just like the windows. And that was our connection back to the windows, connecting the building. Now, another thing that you can do, that was one of my favorite ones. Well, this one was a really cute one too. Another thing you can do is having the kiddos color what they see outside. You can do this during the session. You can do this at home, send it home to the parents, or if you're a parent, you can do it like, okay, we're gonna do one for the living room. Okay, we're gonna do one for your bedroom. Okay, we're gonna do one for, if you want to do 2 or 3, and then compare and talk about how they're similar, how they're different, even using the words similar or different to expose them to that. But if you want to expand it even more, you can draw in just a blank sheet of paper a car window. It's like, okay, this is what you see outside the living room window. But what's something we see outside the car window? And so now they have to recall some information, because when you're in the car, and you look outside the window, it's not stationary like the house, so it's not always going to be mostly the same scene. It's always going to change. So it'll be interesting to have them recall some of the scenes they have experienced, and it gives you like a glimpse of their minds, of what they're perceiving, of just their experience as another human being and what they're taking in of their reality. Really cool. Now, I printed this from a site I like called Twinkle. It's not new. It's been going on for a while, but if you haven't heard of it, there you go, Twinkle. But you don't have to print it out. You can just get a paper and draw with a marker a window. And it's that easy. You don't need a printer. This was just because it's a little neater, but it's not mandatory, of course. But yeah, those were my activities for window. And if you have read this book, or if you thought of different ideas while I was speaking, go ahead and comment in the section below, and I would love to read your comments and have some back and forth, sharing our ideas. Okay, goodbye.